All right, so part two. So in your notes, I should have a new heading, part two of week two classwork. So I reviewed that last video, and yeah, it's longer than I normally go, but it just happened. And so, but what it did remind me to tell you is that each week, matter of fact, starting in week three, we'll kind of be over the whole how the classwork works or how the class works, and we'll be on to other content. So starting, I think next week you'll see some video that I'll curate, meaning I'll go find some things for you to watch and take notes on. And of course, that might be a little more interesting than some of this, but this is just part of getting up to speed. So, having said that, I do want to say on the two things on the My IT Lab, really important is that you have to get that before the win. Let's see if you remember, because I've said it before, because this goes in your notes. You have to have the My IT Lab before, okay, let's go look. So before September 17th for this semester. Now, for if you're taking this in another semester, check the syllabus. Maybe it will be different. But for you all, you have to have it before this time. Now, what this also means is if you have a trial account, you have to have it before that date. Okay, so really awesomely important that you understand that. So if you do a trial version of My IT Lab, you have to convert it before this date. The other thing, and I'll just say this on the late work, is that you still have to complete that item that you are doing late. That is sometimes a question in the student's mind, because I don't call this extra credit. I just call it a way to get the late points that I've removed for you submitting late back. Okay? Just clarification on that. So I'm going to shut these two out because we're kind of done with that. I'm actually uploading right now that first video, that little longer one. So in this video, I just want to go over a few more items and then I'll release you to do the work that to watch some other stuff and move on to your weeks. But it is good to remember, right, just where we're oriented as far as this particular one. So we're on part two of week two. And then you'll have the rest of the work that I've already talked about. I already mentioned something that I want to reiterate in this item right here, right? So, and it's the idea of how you provide me links or embed links. Either way, provide links or embed links. So in this case, I went over how to embed and then direct link. But this also applies to the concept here, right? So I know this is what I want to talk about. So in your notes, right? So let's just go ahead and set this up. I have it open over here, right? So this is part two, right? So part two, do this, heading two, right? So I want to show you, and I want you to actually see this live, right? So because you can talk about stuff all day, but until you see it, sometimes it won't make sense. So this is an example of what's called a folder link. And this is not what I want, but you'll think it works, but it won't. What I want is a file link, okay? So, and this applies to not just the hello world, but because you're going to do this quite often. So I'll show you this. And so here is the example. And I talk about this in the how to submit your scores here, right? So actually, it doesn't matter which item I use, but let me actually go back to the shared with everyone, and because often you'll do a print screen, you'll do that starting in the next item. So when I click here, it might make sense, and let's just grab that and copy it. Come over here, right? So it might make sense to give me this link, right? Because you're like, it's the link to the item directly. But it's not. What happens is when you give me that link and I click on it, it's going to give me your folder. And this, right, is not what I want. What I want is a file link, right? So when you're doing this, make sure you do the hamburger, open in, now you may have open in a new tab, but you should have one or the other, open a new window or tab. Now, I think you can use any item that we have, and when I mean any item, meaning a print screen, well, you start that this week, but a picture, right, or a My IT Lab score, which you will have an example on that as well, right? So I could do the same thing. Matter of fact, let me use another example. Let's go back here, I'm going to grab this. I'm going to go back in to the shared with Rio, and I'm going to pull up. You'll see this soon. Same idea. You're going to give me a link, but this is not the link you want to give me. Why? Because it says folder. Over here, boom, open in a new window. And now, and I'm just going to use this one. So I want you to find one so you can see it. I don't care which one you use, right? And you can probably use a photo since that's the only thing up to this point you have. But so which one is correct? Yeah, the file link. So the way I know you know this is you say that you bold it and you say under here, and we'll just do another indentation. This is the correct way to get the URL. Now, once you get that, you may want to embed it. You may want to direct link it, right? Now, in here in Classwork, we're not embedding. We're generally direct linking, and you will have that in future items, right? In future items that I will have you do in Classwork, you may give me a print screen link in here. But regardless, whichever way we're doing it, I just want you to know the difference, right, between the two ways. Okay, so that goes in your notes, along with those other things I said about the timing of the My IT Lab and the making sure you have it, and then the thing about late work. Okay, so starting next week, I already gave you the heads up. You'll have a little bit of an intro from me, and by then I will have released the class chat link so that you can get on to class chat, and then hopefully by then I have the hours of the tutorial center. Okay, so these are important things to note. So the other thing I want to show you is, and put in your notes, Mac users, right? And even if you're not a Mac user, I still want you to know this, right? So if you're a Mac user, and even if you're a Windows user, the thing you're going to need for this class, and I'm just, as I'm talking, I'm going to travel to my channel. I'm going to look at my videos, and you can do the same thing. But you are going to need for this class to have Word, Excel, and PowerPoint, because we will actually have lab tests, and I'll go over those as we get a little closer. This is the video right here, installing MS Access with Windows and Mac. So the reason I'm talking about this is that you're going to need Microsoft Word, Microsoft Excel, and Microsoft Access. Okay, and what happens is, and in this video I talk about, if you're on Windows, how to get Microsoft Access, if you're on Mac, how to do it, and so it requires a step that I will do the first week, which is to enroll you in a program called, and put this in your notes, the MS Imagine, Microsoft Imagine program. Okay, and so what this allows you to get is access. Okay, and actually it allows you to get Windows. So if you wanted to, if you have old version of Windows and you wanted to upgrade, if you have a Mac and you wanted to run Windows like you've seen me do in the videos, that's also what you can use. But in this particular video right here, again, if you look in my channel, Rio Waller, look for Install MS Access, Mac and Windows, I talk about how you get this. Now, just to be clear, I talked about in the first week on the syllabus that you can get Word, Excel, and PowerPoint for free out of having your campus email, right? But these other, you might actually get access for Windows as well. Anyway, in that video right there, I talk about this concept, and we don't need this for a couple of weeks, or several actually, until we get towards the end of class. But the reason I bring it up now is for Mac students. This is a nice option to go ahead and install Windows into your computer virtually. We call it virtualization. And I do this so that when I need to run a Windows environment, I can do that, right? So it's a little out of your view, but let me just show you. So when I want to fire up Windows, and you saw me do this in one of the videos already, right? All I have to do here is go ahead and hit start, and then that allows me to run Windows on a Mac, right? So Windows users, you don't need this, but Mac users, you might. And again, the reason I bring this up is two reasons. So in your notes, why do I bring this up? One is that if you're running a Mac, right, you might want to use this for My IT Lab, because I found that My IT Lab works better in a Windows environment than in a Mac environment. I wish I could tell you it was not true, but in general it was. When I ran into issues, I moved over to the Windows side and they typically worked. The other thing is you're going to need access, regardless of your Windows or Mac. You're going to need access for this class. So that was the purpose of me really bringing this up, was to just give you that heads up now rather than to waiting until towards the other part of the semester, because if I was a Mac user right now, knowing what I know, I would install this virtualized Windows and run my IT lab and get prepared so that when you need access, we get there. And really what this speaks to is the concept that in our class you will have you have a lab test. So this is just teaching you how to use Word, Excel, and Access. But in this case, you're actually going to have the full program for 3 lab tests that you will need to complete in the actual program. Again, you can, if you're on campus, you can get these on campus. But if you're completely online, then you'll need to make sure you have a computer that has Microsoft Word, Microsoft Excel, and Microsoft Access. So in your notes, what are you going to need to complete the lab test? Microsoft Word, Excel, and Microsoft Access. And on Access, put a little note. Access does not run on the Mac. So if you're a Mac student, you will need to do that virtualized. Again, I have a video showing you how to do this. But I also, in this video, show Windows users how to get this program as well. Okay? All right, I think that's the majority of what I wanted to say to you. Again, I try to keep my videos a little shorter than I did the last one. But in this case, it just happened. So the things that's probably been added by the time you watch this video is I will have links for Classwork, and then probably a little shorter video just talking about how to submit and how to submit your late work points returned, tutorial hours as well. If you don't know how to find me and put this in About Rio, I'm in BE 127, Business Education. Matter of fact, it's in the syllabus. Where am I at? Business Education, right here, 113. Okay, so if you're around the Business Education building, just look for 113. I'm actually, my office is facing social science. Okay. So just the last thing in this video. So one last heading, which is about Rio. So I love teaching. So I absolutely love teaching. I teach this class. I teach advanced classes in front-end web development. In addition to teach, I also do volunteer work. I do volunteer work to help Google build technology communities here in Fresno. So I do some work downtown with Bitwise. If you haven't heard of them, they're great. And in general, there's something called a meetup. So meetups are awesome. So let me just show you. Matter of fact, I'm not going to go there, but you can. I recommend doing this. Go to meetup.com and type in Fresno and see all the different meetups that are going on in Fresno. And there are technology related meetups, and there are just social. There's if you want to go rock climbing, if you want to go hiking, if you want to go running. You know, people sometimes I think there's not a lot going on in Fresno, and God, that has not been my reality. There's a lot going on in Fresno. So avail yourself of these opportunities, because it really does make us, it stretches us in ways that are really good for us, because, it's like you are here and here's your comfort, when you're outside of your comfort zone, that's when the magic happens. So I live in a sustainable home, not too far from the Fresno City campus. I walk to school each day. I have a sustainable home. We use a lot less water than most people. I eat mostly a vegan diet, which is awesome for me physically, but I also feel like it's good for the planet. So these are things I value, and I value this job, and I value you. So I really attempt to make your experience good in this class. So, if you're having challenges, come see me, reach out to me. If you can't do that, then contact with me, connect with me on Hangouts, and if that doesn't feel right, email me directly through Canvas. But avail yourself of whatever it is you need to be successful, because this class has a couple of moving parts, as you saw this week. But once you get into the swing, which I think is really week 3, when I feel like things kind of really come together, I think you'll get a sense of how to succeed in this class. And my recommendation for how to succeed in this class, sounds like a heading. A recommendation is to actually chunk this work, is to give yourself a schedule, knowing now that there's two due dates a week. Generally, each due date has 2 items. If it was me, I'd have one day where I scheduled the first item. Next day, I'd have to schedule another item. But you get to figure this out for yourself. But the better you have scheduled yourself to time manage yourself, the better off generally you will do. Not just in this class, honestly, in life. Like, I've spent this whole summer before the start of the semester studying, and I really had to be self-disciplined. And it was great, because once I got into the swing of just knowing, here's what I do each day. I do so much. I have a schedule for how much I do a day. I had a schedule for how much I wanted to do over the summer, and it was so helpful, so that I could go do what I want, do what I needed to do, what I enjoy doing as well. But then I could go have fun. So it's really cool that when you do the things you know you need to, then you can really let go and do the things that you want to enjoy. So enough with this spiel. It's time to actually finish up. So what's the last thing you need to do? And this will be the last time I go over this concept, is you need to actually submit your URL for your classwork, right? Now this is different, and again, things are different, so we'll look at this. How do you submit? And I'll just go to Firefox because I already had it open over here. Now in this case, notice the URL. This doesn't show me a folder. This shows me the actual link to the document. So that's why I can do that. Come over to here. Right now I'm just going to, because we see it a little differently, I'm actually going to, you'll see this. Again, this is the last time you'll see me show you this, because from here on out I'm going to assume you know how to do it. So what I'm going to do real quick is just move to the student view, so you have that view real quick. So this is classwork, right? So now that you've completed all the notes, right, you submit the assignment, and then you paste that URL. So again, the idea that in this case it's showing a document and not a folder. The nice thing is, with the Google Doc, you don't have to do the additional step on that one, right? So here's my recommendation. I'm not going to submit that, but you need to. My recommendation is, because you're going to need this anyway, if you have time now, go ahead and watch the video for Chapter 1 quiz, and then watch the video for how to submit your My IT Lab scores, or make sure you do that when you're in there, because you'll need to know the information in there. Okay, this time I really am finished. Promise. Peace out.